Hey, Morgan SLV here. Once again, let's go over gold and silver. Gold today, as of 8/17/2010, is $12.26. Silver is $18.55. Today, I wanted to go over something called fundamentals. Fundamentals would be, at least how I think of them is this. If you're looking at a good, I'm into drag racing. So if you're looking at a good drag racing team and they have great sponsors, one of my favorites was, at the time that I was really following it close, was John Force. Now, when he rolled into a race, he rolled in with $5 million worth of equipment. He rolled in with 3 vehicles, 3 cars, 2 complete and 1 in parts, to go after his quest for winning championships. The bottom line is, to me, that means his fundamentals are good. In other words, he is prepared to win, okay? Now, let's talk about our dollar and fundamentals. It's just been said, I was following up with Peter Schiff, just been said that China has reduced their holdings of the U.S. currency by 7%, or around 7%, increasing their holdings of the euro and the Japanese yen. What is that signal when they're starting to drop our dollar? And by the way, I've heard other things in the news recently that they're going to start. You're going to start being able to buy oil and other currencies other than the U.S. dollar. So what that's telling me is people are starting to jump ship. In other words, our fundamentals are not sound. And let me just go through some of the stuff that I've written down here, and you guys kind of see why. China has taken over as the world's largest auto market and consumer of energy. They've kind of ousted us. The U.S. is the 3rd largest exporter, but we are the 1st largest importer by a factor of 2. So in other words, we're the 3rd largest exporter, but we're the largest importer by a factor of 2. In other words, this shows that our GDP. This shows that our GDP must get more in line with our production. In other words, you can't import, twice as much as you export, right? Or you end up with some pretty bad fundamentals. Okay. See if I can find what we have a $70 billion trade deficit per month. That is unsustainable. Okay, we went from the world's largest creditor nation to the largest debtor nation. Our main export is our debt. Okay, and that's really gonna, I was just watching silver futures. That's really gonna play havoc, on the last people standing there. It's kind of like the last. There's a sucker born every day, and as long as you're not the last sucker to grab up the dollar, so to speak, you're gonna be looking a little bit better. Here's the bottom line. The half of our currency is outside our country, okay, and I know there's a lot of different countries and a lot of different folks out there grabbing up the dollar, not just in the U.S. but outside the U.S. because it's the best looking horse in the glue factory. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. In order to pull this off, in order to pull off a $70 billion a month trade deficit, in order to pull that off, the rest of the world must loan us money. Okay? So, how long can that continue? Not everybody is dumb, right? Not everybody is more interested in their sports or in their hot rods when it comes to people like me. At one point, if it didn't go fast, I didn't watch or pay attention to it, right? I mean, that was my life at the time, and I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. In other words, I wasn't doing it on purpose. The bottom line is this, though: you need to pay attention to what's going on, people, right? You need to pay attention to what's going on. And if you're the last guy standing there with the dollar and the dollar crashes, you're kind of done. And that goes for nations as well, right? Basically, what we do is we export government instruments, or bonds, mortgage-backed securities, stocks, etc. Right? Well, eventually, those things are going to come home to roost. In other words, as the people realize that they don't, you ever play that game Hot Potato, right? As they start to drop drop their potatoes, so to speak, all those dollars are going to be rushing back to the U.S. And that is not going to be a good thing unless you happen to be holding like precious metals, right? Just saying. Here's another thing when it comes to fundamentals that I'm talking about. The U.S., I guess, the government's come up with this deal where they're going to loan you, if you're a homeowner and you're underwater and you're unemployed, they'll loan you a $50,000 loan that's I don't know what it's secured by. Let's go over this. You're probably upside down on your property, number one. Number two, you're unemployed, so you have no assets, right? The property isn't an asset, and you have no job. They're going to loan you 50 grand, and this is supposed to take care of the problem here. Well, I don't have all the answers, but the bottom line is that sounds to me like that sounds like a pretty bad loan, right? These ninja loans that they were making prior to this, where there's no doc loans, where you may or may not have a job and you may or may not have an asset. Well, at least there's a chance you have a job and there's a chance you have an asset. These you definitely don't. No proof of a job, no assets. Those loans were crazy. These loans, they have no job and they have no assets. And to me, that adds up to losing bets. Losing bets as far as our fundamentals. Okay, so once again, John Force rolls into a racetrack. He's got 3 freaking cars. He's got over $5 million worth of equipment, and God knows how many people on his crew. No wonder he wins a lot. His fundamentals are great. I don't watch basketball, baseball. If it doesn't have boxing gloves or a steering wheel, I don't pay attention to it. Sorry, I don't have another analogy. The bottom line is this. Our fundamentals for the U.S. are incredibly bad. We are overregulated. We used to flood the world with cheap, high-quality products because we had lower... the government left us alone, so to speak, with all these regulations. Well, it's not that way anymore. Yes, we do still produce, but we don't produce anything near what we used to. And the bottom line is all these people over in China thinking they're going to someday turn in those pieces of paper, those IOUs, for something. We have to produce something in order to make that happen, right? And right now, it's just looking real shaky. So the bottom line is this. Study precious metals. And the only reason I'm saying that is it's something that I'm most comfortable with. I'm real heavy into silver, as you guys know. Study up on Kiyosaki, Maloney, study up on Schiff, Why Silver, Silver Futurist, Da Vinci J15. In other words, you'll get your favorites, right? You'll get in there. Well, I don't know if I agree with this guy, but this guy sounds a little more correct. This guy is sounding like that's a little bit more what's happening in my area, right? Now, I'm in Northern California, and I'm in kind of I don't want to say a wealthy area, but all around me, at one time, this place was frickin' happening, right? Well, it's drying up. A lot of stuff is drying up, and I hate to see it. The bottom line is this. If you study, the harder you study, the luckier you'll get, I believe. And once again, I just appreciate all your viewership. As you know, we're getting ready to try to monetize this thing. I'm not altruistic. I want to help people, but I definitely want to, I think charity starts at home. We're starting with this. I've gotten a lot of good information lately. I'm getting ready to get some more software and kick this thing into high gear. But I appreciate everybody watching my videos. Please comment good or bad, and and I'll try to do as best I can for you guys. And anyway, between now and the next time I see you, study up. Morgan SLV out.